Hello and welcome to Drew Manchu's Comic Book Reviews. I'm your host, Drew Manchu, and today we're going to be taking a look at X-Force number 2. Spinning out of Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of 10, Dawn of X has broadened the scope of Marvel's mutant landscape. Through 6 ongoing titles, we've seen the story branch out into 6 different directions, with X-Force focusing on the security of Krakoa and threats to mutant kind, even going so far as to kill off Professor Xavier in the first issue. With Charles dead and Cerebro damaged, the X-Men search for answers as to who is responsible and how they got the job done, as well as how to move forward in repairing Cerebro to bring Charles back to life. The book opens with Magneto and all of the mutants of Krakoa gathered around Xavier's dead body. As he holds the shattered remnants of Cerebro back together the best he can, he laments that he wasn't there to use his magnetism to stop the bullet. That if Xavier was made of metal, he could piece him together just as easily. He says that this was all Charles's plan, his island, his future, and it will remain his as long as Xavier returns to them. We then see Magneto meeting with Jean Grey, who says that Xavier knew that this could happen, and that even though it's hard to see him lying there dead on the ground, that there is a backup plan. And if she can fix Cerebro, she can bring him back. Magneto is less than satisfied with ifs. There is too much to lose, and they're in a race against time. They need to bring Xavier back before the world knows that he's gone. She knows what's at stake, and off she goes to find Beast, to whom she assigns the task of bringing Cerebro back online. On their way to Cradle 1, Beast and Jean discuss how Charles left himself vulnerable, how he acted as an ambassador without security, and how he didn't want to behave like a king, despite wearing the crown. Cradle 1 is just one of many that house backup Cerebro units, only one of which can be live at any given time. Jean tells Beast that if he can bring Cerebro back, she can bring Charles back. Beast is less than sure, as he states the theoretical nature of her hypothesis, but she tells him that despite her coming to him for his scientific expertise, she needs him to operate on blind faith. We then are shown the healing gardens where Healer and Sage are performing autopsies on the attackers, while Black Tom, racked with guilt, keeps blaming himself. The remains of the strike team contain Reaver technology, but instead of cybernetic enhancements, these soldiers appear to be lab-created, and each one had pieces of Domino's skin grafted onto their own. Wolverine tells Sage to get Jean in there right away to psychically interrogate the one attacker who is barely clinging onto life. They need to know everything that he knows, including Domino's fate. She asks him why he can't tell her this himself, and he says, "Because I'm going hunting." We flash to the Seoul International Airport, where Wolverine has tracked the origin of the strike team. He's trying to hack into the surveillance footage to find a lead when he is discovered by an unsuspecting security guard. He goes to neutralize the guard when both the guard and the cup of coffee he's dropped are both frozen in mid-motion. Wolverine immediately recognizes the scent of one of his greatest frenemies in the air, and we're graced with the presence of Kid Omega, Quentin Quire. Quire beat Logan to the punch, and he's already scoured the surveillance footage, spotted the car the assassins arrived in, and determined where they came from. He gets in as many verbal jabs as he can while explaining all of this to Wolverine, and they're off to follow the trail. Back on Krakoa, Beast is hard at work, trying to bring Cerebro back online. Jean is cyclically trying to motivate him, reminding him that they're in a race against time. He keeps coming back to the thought of Charles lying there dead on the ground, but she tells him to have faith, that there is no room for grief when you believe in resurrection. Meanwhile, outside of Seoul, Kid Omega continues his quips as he and Wolverine take out the guards at their destination. Wolverine has had enough of his mouth, but Quentin says that he will not shut up, and neither will the guards, as they beg and pray and scream, bowing down before the gods of their future. Logan makes it clear that he's not a fan of Quentin's rhetoric, as they come to realize that this factory is being used to manufacture these assassins from scratch. Back on Krakoa, Sage is coming to the same realization through examining the remains, that these engineered soldiers were cheating evolution, and as Jean attempts to probe the survivor's mind, her own mind is bombarded with images that she does not understand. Back in Seoul, Kid Omega and Wolverine continue their investigation, all the while Quentin is running his mouth. Logan tells him that he's pissed off about Xavier too, but if the professor was there, he'd take exception to all of his commentary. That no matter what Magneto says, they're not gods, and humans aren't devils, that they're all just animals fighting over the same forest. Just then, the incomplete soldiers come online and attack the duo. Wolverine starts hacking and slashing, but Kid Omega's powers aren't working. As the battle rages, they realize that there must be a psionic dampener affecting Quentin's powers, and they must be using this dampener to hide someone. And as Wolverine holds the horde of partially completed assassins at bay, Kid Omega finds Domino, half flayed, in a stasis tank. Benjamin Percy is killing it right now on X-Force. Issue number 1 I thought was a little bit lackluster, and I wasn't sure what they were going to do with the whole Xavier is dead cliffhanger deal, but I like what they're doing here. They're not sure they can bring him back, but they're going to do their best to try, and they're in a race against time to do so. The fact that these assassins are basically using Reaver technology ties it to the past, while also leaving it open for the future as well. It's good to see Wolverine back to being Wolverine again, and it's always great to have a nice witty foil for Wolverine conversationally, and Quentin Quire fits that bill perfectly. The moment I knew that X-Force was going to be a book that was going on my pull list was the moment I saw Quentin Quire on the cover of X-Force number 1. We didn't get him there, but we get him here in spades, and he's absolutely delightful. I love how he says he can see inside Wolverine's brain, and it's like a spent ashtray in a Depression-era hobo bar. I absolutely loved Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men, which really pit Quentin Quire and Wolverine against each other, at least psychologically, for most of that run, and it's really good to see them back interacting again. There's something magical about hearing Quentin say, "Follow me if you want to stab something." Quentin has always been a reluctant hero who's kind of walked the line between Xavier and Magneto, and it's exciting that he hasn't changed in this new X landscape. We get a few really great infographic pages here as well that lay out everything that they've learned about these assassins, and also about the strange case of Phineas Hook, which seems to be a trap that Domino has sprung. The visions that Jean has in her head kind of look like a peacock, and I don't know where they're going with that, so if you know what's up with that, give me a heads up in the comments down below, and maybe broaden my mind on this subject. I also kind of called the skin graft thing from Domino, but it's really cool to see her half flayed in that stasis tank, and I'm kind of curious if she survives this, what kind of mental impact it's going to have on her character. Doesn't seem like the luckiest of outcomes to me. After issue 1, I thought X-Force, while the solid title, was probably the least must-read out of all of these new books, but after issue number 2, it's quickly climbing the ranks as one of my favorites. Cassara's art remains engaging, while Dean White's colors are really the highlight of this book right here. It's absolutely gorgeous in a very stylized way, and I really enjoyed the tone. But more than anything, putting Wolverine and Quentin Quire in a book together is gonna honestly be a must-read for me. X-Force number 2 gets a 4 out of 5. Gang, here at the Comic Core, we are giving away a Marvel Legends 14.5-inch Hulk, absolutely free for you guys, and this is a super easy contest to enter. Should be a card popping up right there, and that's going to take you to the video where you can learn about how to enter. You can enter on this video as well. Just go ahead and hit those comments, and make sure your comment includes the hashtag ComicCoreSmash. And if you're a fan of Drew Manchu's comic book reviews, do not forget to check out my brand new project. I'm collaborating with Comics Misexplained. Yes, that's right, our friend Jason Cantu and the Cantu Manchu review crew over on the SNB network. Make sure you sub them up, hit that notification bell, because once a week we'll be dropping some content. Check it out.